In this one, what we're going to do is we're going to take our lessons from what we were learning in the previous lessons on how we take the major scale and we find all of our chords on the E and A strings, and then we move them around the different keys. Well, we're going to take that and show you a little simpler way of approaching this. We're going to take a more pattern approach. Now, this is going to be a bit easier to grasp than we were previously doing, but it was important to go through that because you want to understand what all the, it's called music theory. You want to understand all the workings behind, what you're doing. So we wanted to connect the major scale, which is like a parent scale of everything. We wanted to figure out how that is connected to all these power chords. So whatever you're working on, it's good to know these patterns and everything, but you don't want to be blind to everything. You want to learn a little bit of why these notes and chords and all that are connected and how they're connected, and you want to learn a little bit, at least a little bit of that kind of stuff behind it. So that's why I went through that first. It's the harder part of it, but it's really important to understand that first, and then go to these more simple, like, little tricks and stuff. You don't want to go to these little shortcuts, immediately. Again, you want to understand the meaning behind all of this first. So let me bring the camera down and let's go for it. Okay, so hopefully you picked up when we're going through our power chords in E and A that there's a point where our half steps, they meet on both the E and A strings to form a block. This only happens one spot within our key. The other spot where there's a half step, there's half step here, and then half step over here. They aren't stacked on top of each other. But in this one particular spot, which happens to be where our root is located, we have a half step, two half steps stacked up on top of each other on E and A strings. Basically, on this side is you going up, you scale whole, 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 whole. There's our half. We cross over, whole, 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 half. And then this, we do it in reverse. We remember it's a half before we start over again. So we got go down a half step, and then one whole step, two whole steps, three whole steps. We have our crossover. So this little spot right here, where the beginning and the ending meet, that forms our stacked half step points. And this is our root block. And we're going to use this to help us find everything, all the chords within different keys. And in a root within this is contained, from your perspective, looking down at the guitar, it's in the upper right-hand corner of that root block. Right there. So, now what we're going to do is we're in the key of C. You're mostly familiar with that, so we're going to do that first. And then we're going to go, we're not going to hit all the chords. We're going to hit a very easy to visualize pattern first, and then we're going to add in some chords after that. So, in our previous exercises, we didn't count this as one. We went up a whole step. That was one. Went up another whole step. That's two. Well, that's because we're going up one whole step. We can't count. We didn't move anywhere here, so we can't count this as one whole step. And this approach, we're not thinking of it as distances. Going up one whole step as one, going up two whole steps two. We're thinking of these as groupings. So right here, I'm starting here. That's our first grouping. Here's our root block. Starting here. Here's our first grouping of our power chords stacked on top of each other. So we're going to count this as 1, 2, and 3. So there's 3 over on this side of the root block. We start right here. This is going to be one grouping. Go down 2 and 3. This side, you have 3 groupings. So you have your root block right here, and you have 1 grouping, 2 groupings, three groupings. This side, one grouping, two groupings, three groupings. So it's 3 and 3, and they meet right in the middle, right next to each other, which forms our root block. And then all you gotta do, if you want to go in a different key, you just take that root block, put it somewhere else. You know, this is our root over here, so let's see. Let's do E flat. There's our root block. You can go up, 1, 2, 3, and then you go over here. Now, if you get confused, you can go 1, 2, 3, work your way back down, and go down a half step to form your other half. 1, 2, and 3. There you go. There you got that section of your power chords in the E and A, and the key of that was E flat. Now there's other chords in here, which in the next lesson we're going to go over, you know, how to add in these extra chords, and of course some of these chords repeat and stuff, but we'll go over that in another video. So let's take, say, let's take B. So B is our root. That's the upper right hand corner, so there's our root block. So we got one grouping, two groupings, three groupings. There's our root. Back down here, one grouping, two groupings, three groupings. And there you go. Let's do, say, A. A. We got our root block here. So we got one grouping, two groupings, three groupings. Back over here, one grouping, two groupings. Now if we kept going down and we used our major fret, we'd be playing like this. But we don't really need this, so you don't really want to be playing it that way. We're going to play it like this. So it's basically, here's our root, one grouping, two groupings, and then the next one will be like here. The open power chords. Now it's important that you don't just learn these patterns and move them around and that's it. You need to apply everything musically. And it's really important. Otherwise, what use is learning all this? So you really need to make sure you apply it musically. And what you're going to do is you're going to take these patterns and just jamming them. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's take our chords that we learned earlier in the key of A major. Here's our root block. We went 1, 2, 3. And the other side, 1, 2, and then 3. So what you're going to do is just simply take these chords and jam. And then, you got that little section, but then you'll play in this section. Yeah, just jamming them, and then maybe once you get used to it, you can really see those patterns. You can make bigger jumps, so like just make bigger and bigger jumps so you can really get used to those chords. Make smaller jumps in the beginning because you got to get used to the patterns, but you really need to see these patterns and be able to jump right to them. So basically, yeah, that's how you do that. So I would say when you sit down, pick a bunch of keys, just kind of go through them just to practice it, and then yeah, pick a key or two do a little bit of jamming in it each day, and each day pick a different key. You don't want to pick the same key all the time. You can pick a few of your favorite ones and mess around those maybe a little bit more, but make sure you jam around different keys. You really got to get used to that. So that's it for this one. We're going to do in the next one is we're going to start adding in the rest of the chords in there. So yeah, mess around with that. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next one.